Kevin.
Yes, Michelle?
Tell everyone what we're doing today.
So today we're going to be installing the Panigale heat shield kit on this beautiful 1199 Tricolore. This will actually be the last couple days that I own this bike. I really only bought it to develop the 1199 and 1299 heat shield. So sadly it's going to be leaving us in just a couple days, but to send it off we're going to do a quick installation video for you guys.
So what do we need to get started?
Well, first of all, you need a Panigale heat shield kit, available at panigaleheatshield.com. What you're going to get with the kit is this full color instruction manual, and then this is the actual kit. Pre-cut fiberglass heat shield material.
Let me see. Ooh, shiny.
So nicely textured. Michelle really
fancy.
Michelle likes her fancy
I like
texture.
the shiny and the sparkles. Do you like sparkles, Kevin?
I'm indifferent to sparkles, I would say.
Boring.
What's going to happen is, we'll disassemble the bike a little bit. We're going to take off the plastic engine covers, the seat, and what that's going to allow us to do is install these pre-cut pieces on the inside of the bodywork. So once it's installed, it's completely invisible. You can't see anything from the outside, but it's going to shield your legs, your nuts, everything from the radiant heat coming off that rear cylinder. And that's really the big problem area on this bike, is that rear cylinder and the heat.
So what do we call that?
We call that no more roasted nuts for the guys.
And no more fried fish for the gals. Sorry, I had to steal that. I invented it.
She had to cut in.
I invented it.
Let's move on to the tools.
The tools? Don't we have one right here?
The number one tool.
That is really gross, but okay.
You asked for it.
I accept you. Alrighty, what are we looking at here?
So what we're looking at here is the selection of tools that you're going to need to install the 1199 heat shield kit. Now with this kit, you actually have two options. You can do sort of the light installation, which just involves installing the heat shields on the seat and the subframe. And that's going to give you probably 60–70% of the benefits of the kit, but it's a much easier installation. A lot less stuff has to be removed. Or you can go for the full Monty installation, where you're going to have to lift up the subframe, pull those plastic engine covers off, and install the heat shields there. It's not a big deal if you have the full color instruction manual, but it's probably an extra 30 minutes to an hour, depending on your skill level, and a few more tools necessary.
And you need the right tools, exactly.
So let's go over the tools that you're going to need for the install. So for the basic install, really all you're going to have to do is lift up the tank. So first of all, remove the seat, which is just going to be, you know, some sort of screwdriver that can accept hex bits, and a little 4mm hex bit. So that's going to be required to remove the seat. You'll need one more, just a 3mm hex bit, to remove the plastic trim in front of the fuel tank. And then you'll need a regular old 1/4" socket wrench with an 8mm attachment. And then you're going to need some kind of rigid block. So this is actually a motorcycle battery, about 6 inches tall, and that's just going to allow you to prop the fuel tank up. And really with just those tools right there, you're going to be able to do the simple installation.
Hey Kevin.
Yes, Michelle?
What do we need for the full installation?
I'm happy you asked. So, first and foremost, decently sized glass of whiskey.
Let me see that.
This is Michelle's idea of a whiskey pour. So that's going to come in very handy whenever you're doing, you know, an hour plus installation of the heat shield kit.
10 ounces of whiskey, 10 times more fun.
Okay, so to do the full installation, we're going to need a larger socket. I have a 1/2 inch here with a few different extensions, a 3/8 inch socket, as well as a 1/4" socket. So if you have a normal socket set, you're going to be set, basically. A 4mm Allen wrench is going to come in handy if you have to remove the exhaust heat shield. And now moving on to some of the more specialized stuff, you're going to need a Torx T40 bit. That's going to help you remove those bolts to lift the subframe. You're going to need a low profile 8mm wrench. So that's actually going to help you hold this one bolt still while you're removing another bolt. And then lastly, you're going to need one of these universal attachments. It's a U-joint attachment for a socket, and what that's going to allow you to do is get your socket wrench on the angle you need to remove one of the subframe bolts.
Awesome sauce. Let's start the install.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Ooh. Nice hose, man.
Thank you. I get that compliment all the time, actually. One of the most important things you can do before starting this installation is to make sure your fuel tank is basically close to empty. I'm going to show you guys using this simple kit that I bought from O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Look at that arm action.
Ah!
Uh-oh. Can I try?
Sure. You feel it, right? that looks like really strange and inefficient.
I don't like this. It's not fun.
It was your idea.
I hear average pump time is 6, so continue for 1 more minute.
Time to get this hose out of there, and let's continue with the rest of the installation.
Oh, Kevin!
Thank you. So now that the fuel tank is empty, vital step, we can get to removing the seat and then lifting up the fuel tank. Pretty simple. So we're going to start with that 3mm hex bit and remove the seat. And the seat pops off just as easy as that.
Wow, good job.
And then moving up here to the front, we're going to remove just 4 bolts here that are holding this front plastic fuel tank trim in place.
Isn't that 3 bolts? 1, 2, and 3.
None of those are, that's not even a bolt, and those two are not being removed. What I like to do actually is as I'm removing these, just leave them in the trim, and then you can just lift the whole thing off with the screws, and it makes it much easier to keep track of where the screws are. All right, and then after those 4 screws are loosened, that front fuel tank trim will just pop right off. Easy as that.
Oh, wow. Nice job. Very easily impressed, as you all can tell.
And then moving on here to the rear of the fuel tank, we just need to remove this metal bracket, and that's all that's going to be required to let us lift that whole tank up and out of the way. One thing to note about these screws is they actually have little washers underneath them. So it's not the end of the world if you lose them, but might as well keep them, somewhere safe. And then we're going to take the 1/4" socket wrench with the 8mm attachment and move on to those 2 nuts at the back of the bracket. Once those 4 screws are out, that whole bracket just pops right off. Keep it all together so it's easy to keep track of. All right, so now that we have that bracket removed, we can go ahead and lift up the tank. There's a couple different connectors we're going to have to remove, so come in a little bit closer. So the first thing you need to remove is this little grounding tab here, easy as just popping it off. The second thing, you'll see a connector on the bottom side. So you're just going to want to pry up that little lever and then yank the connector out.
Wow.
Just kind of set those off to the side. Take that 6-inch block that we talked about from earlier, just lift up the tank, just insert it under here, and that's going to hold the tank up and out of the way while you perform the rest of the installation.
So what's next?
So next is just to take your 4mm hex bit, and we're going to remove the 2 screws here on the left side engine cover. For now, we're just going to be removing that outer section.
Bum.
Caught it.
No, it dropped first. We all heard it.
And then the only other thing you have to remove on this side is the 1 8mm bolt here on the bottom.
Yeah, I see it.
Took you long enough.
Small eyes, what can you do?
It's pretty easy to drop this one down into the belly pan of the bike, so as it's getting towards the end of being loose, just use your fingers. And maybe put a hand below just for extra security. Got it, successfully.
Ooh, babe.
I could try to
Na
run,
na
but
na
it
na,
would be
useless.
You're to blame.
Flame.
Over here on the right side of the bike, we're going to remove these 2 bolts on the right side engine cover using the 3mm hex bit. And then just like on the other side, we're going to remove an 8mm bolt here from the bottom side of the cover. That's the bolt that we're going to have to remove.
I see it.
So before starting this next step, there's one important thing you have to know. These 2 bolts that we're going to remove, there's an outer bolt and then there's an inner stud that goes into the engine block. Whenever you start removing this, it's possible that the inner stud could break loose first. And if that happens, you can actually crack this plastic piece that the bolt goes through. As you're loosening it, watch in the back to see if the stud is loosening. And if so, that's when you're going to need this little 8mm open end wrench that I talked about. That will allow you to hold the stud still from behind as you loosen that bolt the rest of the way. The bolt that you remove from the rear is a little bit shorter than the one from the front, so just make sure those go back on the same way you took them off. So now the time is here to lift the subframe up. Let me show you the 2 bolts that we're going to be removing. See that one? Right next to the Öhlins shock reservoir. That's a big Torx T40 bolt. And then coming over to the right side, this one's a little bit easier to see.
You made it! Are you here to cheer Dad Daddy on?
Here you go. Can you hold this for Daddy? Can you hold it?
Tell
So I'm going to show you guys how we can go about lifting the subframe so we can get those plastic engine covers off. So for this step, you're going to need a couple long extensions like we talked about. I'm going to show you guys the best method that I found for getting to that bolt. First of all, we have to have our U-joint attachment on there, of course. We're going to insert it over the top of the shock like this, and then you can actually reach underneath with your other hand, and that's going to help you guide it into place. Oh, there we go, went in. So once you have that in place, we're just going to take the longer part of the extension, attach it on there. We're going to start loosening that bolt. All right, so that's the left side out. Let's move over to the right.
Woohoo! All right, so same thing, but other side.
Yeah, so now over here on the right side, it's much easier to access. There's nothing really blocking your way. So really your only concern is that you don't want to scratch up this heat shield. And obviously if you don't have this big carbon one, maybe it won't be a big deal, but what I like to do is put a piece of paper in or something, just so as this thing is turning, I'm not going to scratch up that heat shield. All right, one last thing to do on this side, just a couple bolts that hold this exhaust heat shield to the bottom of the subframe. So we just need to get up under there with a little Allen wrench, and we're going to remove those little bolts. Up here in the loop of the rear exhaust. So pretty hard to show on camera, but you can just get up in there with your 4mm Allen wrench and remove those bolts. And that's the last thing holding the subframe in place. All right, so now we're going to be removing the left side engine cover. All we have to do is lift up this subframe, and then we're going to be able to wiggle that thing out of place. So the engine cover is actually fitted over a couple metal studs. You can see the one in the back here, that silver metal popping through. And there's another one in front.
Please help me open this beer.
Out, we can lift up the subframe and remove this left side engine cover. Since we've lifted the subframe up and down a few times, it's a little bit looser. As things get used a bit too much, they get a little bit looser, as Michelle knows.
Loosey Goosey 1199.
It's been around the block, So basically once we have this thing up, then we can just start working this left side engine cover over those studs on the interior that we talked about. And then we can pop it out of there.
Woo!
So now moving on over here to the right side, we're just going to do the same thing. Lift that subframe up and pop that engine cover off. There you go.
Yoy! Is that everything?
And that's everything we have to remove. So basically now we're just going to clean up all the surfaces of that bodywork that we removed, and we're going to install the custom cut heat shield pieces onto the back side of the bodywork. So let's check out how that's done.
All right, and the fun begins. Did someone say heat shield installation time?
Clean off the surface, clean off the bottom of the seat, clean off the inside surfaces of all of these pieces of bodywork, and we're going to take all of these custom die-cut heat shield pieces and install them one by one onto the bodywork. All right, that's one side done. Let's move on to the right side.
Nice job, Kevin.
Thanks, Michelle.
That's so easy. That's a very well-engineered slit. Like, I know it doesn't look like it, but it's very well thought out.
It takes a lot to figure that stuff out to get it to fit really nicely around the curvature.
Look at that
of this
fit.
bodywork.
I love it. Nice job.
Thank you.
Kevin, are you sure we're done? Is this a piece or is that like scrap? I don't know. I can't really tell.
All right, I think we might have preemptively blown our load on that one. We still have one piece left to install, so let me show you that real quick. Talk about engineering on this piece too. Do you see these like intricate?
Oh yeah.
That's all me.
Right angle slits, 2mm slits. You're a very thoughtful person when it comes to motorcycles. Dang, look at those slits! Did you model those after my eyes?
Because they're slits? Mm-hmm. That's racist, Michelle. That's racist. There's a few things left to install. So these are actually the subframe pieces. So we're going to go over to the bike and we're actually going to install those directly to the inside of the subframe on the bike.
Let's see that thing installed. Awesome. All right, next one. All right, and he's using the thumb technique. Where'd you learn that from?
So that's one side of the subframe done. Let's move over to the other side so we can install the right side.
Alrightios. So what we are looking at here is a human specimen that is going to install more of a heat shield kit. Kevlar, would you continue, please?
Thanks for that fantastic intro, Michelle. So we only have 2 more pieces left to go. We're just gonna install the subframe pieces for the right side of the bike, and then we can put everything back together. How exciting.
So excited!
Yes. All right.
Alrighty. Kevin,
Yes, Michelle.
was that the last piece to install?
That was the last heat shield piece to install, so really all we have to do now is reverse all those steps to reinstall everything, put the bike back together. Just jammed my knee right into this. So next is just to install those subframe bolts. Alright, that should be installed.
Installed!
Subframe connected.
Alrighty. We're ready to put the tank down.
Dropping the tank back down, finally. Shiny. Just imagine how nice and cool your nuts are going to be.
Go, Kevin! Go, Kevin!
Back together! Yeah.
It's done?
Woo!
It's done?
Woo!
It's done?
Woo!
Give me a lap! Running is not one of his talents, as you guys can tell. Moves like a slug. Alright. What was that, mile?
Woo! As you can see, completely invisible from the outside. Maintain that beautiful look of your Panigale. And just provide that little bit of extra barrier against the heat reaching your nuts and inner thighs.
And once again, no roasted nuts and no fried fish.
Depending on the tools that you have and your level of experience, I would guess with this video and with the instruction manual, it might take you around an hour to 2 hours. But at the end of the day, I think for 2 hours and for a very reasonably priced kit, the benefits you're gonna see from this are huge. It's gonna make the bike way more rideable in the city. It's gonna get a lot less hot on your inner thighs and your crotch. It's just going to generally make the bike a lot easier to ride. It's just a small thing you can do for your bike, relatively cheap compared to the prices people pay for accessories on a Panigale, but it actually just makes the riding experience that much better. So just wanted to let you guys know, as of today, heat shield kits for both the 899-959, as well as a different version for the 1199-1299 are in stock at PanigaleHeatShield.com. So thank you so much for watching this video. This has been really fun. I love doing these videos for you guys. Anything else you want to see, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe and like if you like what you saw here. And don't forget to hit the little notification bell, because that'll actually make sure you get notified when I post new videos. I really hope you guys like the content that we've made so far. We plan to do a ton more videos. Of course, this is going to be the last couple days that we have the 1199. Sadly, it's leaving us, but we have a ton planned for the V4 Speziale, so stay tuned. Keep tuning in. I really appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you.
Oh, and if you think I'm annoying, then state it in the comments. Bye!
Bye!
Nice peace sign. What, are you Asian?